Chapter 1065. Li Chuanfeng's hair stood on end. At this moment he was trapped by Zixin and could only fight until both sides were injured. Now that Qin Wenyan had joined in, he couldn't resist at all. If he was hit by this punch, even if he didn't die, he would be half dead. Li Chunfeng raised his leg and kicked, hoping to delay for half a breath of time. However, Qin Wenyan disappeared in the blink of an eye. When she reappeared, she was already behind him. Using stellar transposition, she appeared on his left. Zixin once again strengthened her mental power, suppressing Li Chunfeng. As long as he was slightly distracted, he would be completely suppressed by her. At this moment, Zixin was bleeding profusely. Her mental power was far from enough, but she was still holding on. However, very soon, Qin Wenyan's fist landed on Li Chuanfeng's head. Li Chuanfeng's head heavily hit the ground, causing him to feel dizzy. Then, it was 2 against 1, and he was immediately imprisoned by Zixin. A battle between kings was ever-changing. Once there were more than one side, the victor would be decided on the spot because the gap between them was too small. Even if it was someone like Yi Qinghan, unless he used the Great Wasteland Monument, he wouldn't be able to last more than 3 breaths of time. Li Chunfeng was suppressed. Although he didn't die, his divine power was sealed, turning him into a cripple. Zixin tossed him to Wu Yan and rushed towards Martial King Ji Tianxin without hesitation. At this moment, Martial King Ji Tianxin and Sky Overlord were violently attacking 2 sword experts. When they saw Zixin rushing over, they couldn't help but be shocked. When they saw Dao Tian Yunfei and Mo Li fighting, they couldn't help but feel flustered and exasperated. Mo Li, what are you doing? Sky Overlord roared furiously. Boom! Mo Li's spear collided with the divine arrow shot from the Sky Splitter bow. His body was like a kite with a broken string, fiercely crashing into the ground. If it wasn't for the high quality of the demon god's spear in his hand, he would have been blown to smithereens. However, Dao Tian Yunfei was even more miserable. The soul attached to the divine arrow was directly destroyed. He coughed up blood and fell to the ground, howling like a madman. His eyes were filled with blood, looking incomparably miserable. How you fight has nothing to do with me, but whoever dares to kill the ethereal body and harm the people of my demon god mountain will be my enemy. I will represent the demon god mountain and hunt you down until the end of time. Mo Li crawled up from the ground and stabbed his spear into the ground. His righteousness reached the clouds as he stood in front of Qin Wenyan. He was like an indomitable great demon god, as if even if the sky collapsed, no one would be able to harm him. Qin Wenyan felt a warmth in his heart. All these years, she had always been at odds with Mo Li, but he didn't care at all. Every time she encountered danger, he would always stand in front of her. Qin Wenyan couldn't help but feel guilty. At this moment, the voices of the spectators drowned out the sounds of the battle. They were all envious and jealous of Qin Wenyan. With such an expert protecting him, who would dare to bully him? Mo Li's shot was effective, causing everyone's opinion of him to change greatly. If they were to assist such a person, why would they have to worry about their own status? Mo Li's behavior instantly surpassed that of most of the sons of God. No son of God would treat their subordinates as their family, but Mo Li had done so. Winning over people's hearts, absolutely winning over people's hearts. Many of the sons of God were incomparably furious as they looked at Mo Li coldly. They were very dissatisfied. After all, the insane sect was a second-rate power, not a holy land. The Holy Land should have worked together to eliminate the insane sect first, and the rest should be left to the Holy Land's grievances. However, Mo Li actually took the opportunity to win over people's hearts. Mo Li, this is your fault. You can take away the ethereal body, and no one will stop you. However, you shouldn't have attacked. Another expert from the Holy Land of Order walked out, and he was even stronger than Li Chunfeng. With one look, one could tell that he was at the same level as Mo Li. At this moment, he stared at Mo Li and said coldly, "You motherfucker, take someone away while shooting with the Sky Splitter divine bow. If you can take him away, I'll help you beat up the insane sect today. If not, don't talk nonsense with me." Mo Li was furious. The hand that was holding the demon god spear was still trembling. The web between his thumb and forefinger was numb, and he felt that his entire right arm was crippled. The aura of the expert from the Holy Land of Order stagnated, and he was actually speechless. The Sky Splitter Divine Bow was simply too powerful. Apart from the Overgod artifacts, there were not many giant divine weapons that could be compared to it. This kind of powerful godchild relied on powerful weapons and secret techniques. Although Mo Li's physical body was damaged, Dao Tian Yunfei's soul was heavily injured. At this moment, he wiped away his tears of blood and looked at Mo Li with a ferocious expression. With a wave of his hand, he pulled the divine arrow back into his hand and was about to shoot again. Mo Li looked at Dao Tian Yunfei coldly and said with a hoarse voice, "If you dare to shoot another arrow, I'll definitely kill you today." The atmosphere in the field was completely chaotic, and it was about to develop into a chaotic battle. The second-generation sorcerer gods still did not intervene, and the powerful protectors behind the godchild did not appear either. They allowed the situation to worsen. More and more forces were participating, and gradually, it began to affect the elite kings of the subsidiary clans. The killing intent was thick, and it seemed like the battle would be brought forward. Right at this moment, another top-notch expert walked out from behind. His aura was wild, and his eyes were filled with rebellion and coldness. The Dao Tian robe on his body flapped loudly, and his 7-feet body contained a divine power that could destroy the heavens and earth. With a raise of his hand, a technique was attached, and the heavens wailed. Dao Tian Xiongfei, the holy godchild of the Dao Heaven Holy Land, and also the successor of the overgod recognized by the Dao Heaven Holy Land. He lightly stepped on the tip of his foot, and his footsteps did not collapse. He stood 1 foot above the ground, but it was as if he was walking on flat ground. His seemingly slow footsteps were actually as fast as lightning, and he directly appeared in front of Dao Tian Yunfei. With a wave of his hand, he pressed down on the Sky Splitter Divine Bow in Dao Tian Yunfei's hand and took it away. Dao Tian Yunfei did not dare to refute. Instead, he straightened his back and looked at Mo Li coldly as if the strongest helper had arrived. "It's just a farce. There's no need to fight to the death. Yunfei is insensible and took out my divine weapon to disturb everyone." Dao Tian Xiongfei's hoarse voice was very magnetic, and his words mesmerized many female cultivators. Even the men could not bring themselves to be hostile toward him. More and more experts appeared, and they were getting stronger and stronger. However, most of them were from the human race. The 4 holy beasts transformed experts did not make a move, and they just watched coldly. Jiang Jingtian and Purple Saint also stopped fighting. In this chaotic battle, as long as someone made a sneak attack, they would be killed in 1 strike. No one could escape. Martial King Ji Tianxian and Sky Overlord also took a few steps back and stopped attacking. However, their expressions were very ugly, and the anger in their hearts was self-evident. The young man from the Order Holy Land shook his head. He shuttled through the crowd and directly came in front of Wu Yen. He raised his hand and controlled the order. Wu Yen, who had lost his supreme source and was injured, could not resist. He could only watch as the young man took Li Chunfeng away, and he could not even move. This was the supreme profundity of the Order Great Tao. All order was under his control. Even if the holy godchild fought against him, he would not be able to gain the upper hand. The young expert only looked at Li Chunfeng indifferently, and Li Chunfeng immediately recovered. The restrictive spell in his body was also removed. He looked at the young expert, and the corner of his mouth twitched. He said in a wrong tone, "Big brother, I was besieged, I know. You shouldn't have made a move. You are in the wrong. You can't blame others." The young expert said coldly. The people of the Kuang sect retreated once again. They were not familiar with the people in front of them. They did not even know the names of some of them, or which forces they were from. Even Zixin could only recognize their clothes, but not their names or specific identities. For Piao Hong of Wentianda. Chapter 1066. While the outside world was in chaos, Yi Qinghan was deep in thought. He really didn't want to ruin the pure girl in front of him. As the saying goes, if you don't love, don't hurt. Although Yi Qinghan wasn't a good person, he wasn't a bad person either. How can I get the child out of this unhappy situation? Yi Qinghan thought to himself. His brows were tightly knitted, and he really couldn't think of a solution. Wu Qingqing didn't know anything about this. She could only wait for Yi Qinghan to take action. However, he was lying on a grassland with a weed in his mouth. His eyes were staring at the blue sky. He seemed to be in a daze and didn't know what to do. After a long time, Yi Qinghan stood to the side and rested his head on his right hand. He looked at the dazed Wu Qingqing and thought for a moment before saying, "Can you walk around and let me think about what to do?" Wu Qingqing nodded helplessly and walked off into the distance alone. Then Yi Qinghan pulled the divine bird out and sat on the ground. He asked seriously, "What should I do? If I don't give her the seed, the second sorcerer god will definitely kill me. If I do, I don't want to have anything to do with Wu Qingqing. Help me think of a solution." The divine bird stretched lazily and said disdainfully, "Do you know how good it is to bump into love? You can have sex first and then turn your back on me. You can leave the seed for the sorcerer race and buy us some time. That's it, I'm going to enjoy the bump of love with my wife." Yi Qinghan was speechless. It seemed that these two fellas had blended together in his blood and were addicted to it. "What do you know? If I give you a fire phoenix, will you take it? If I give you a godly phoenix, will you also enjoy the bump of love?" Yi Qinghan asked angrily. The divine bird's breath stagnated. Then it refused righteously, "Of course not. It's too hot. I can't get rid of it. Also, this divine bird can't let my wife down. That's right. You're a beast. You don't even want the divine phoenix and the fire phoenix. You let me go around getting into trouble. You're the beast. You've eaten both Jian Shenxue and Little Master. Why are you pretending to be a gentleman now? You've done so many things where you don't own up to your debt. This one won't make a difference. Don't disturb me from creating a huge divine bird clan." The divine bird was very disdainful and mocked him with disdain. Yi Qinghan was so angry that he nearly jumped out of his seat. It seemed like this guy was about to turn the world upside down. "That's right, don't disturb us." The little money grubber also rushed out and stood shoulder to shoulder with the divine bird. They were about to enter the depths to have sex and create little divine birds. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, Yi Qinghan was breathing heavily. He was about to be angered to death by these two supreme-grade creatures. He reached out and grabbed the divine bird and the little miser. "Don't you know the suffering of the hungry? This divine bird has been alone for so many years and has always been loyal to you. Now that I have finally found someone of my kind, please fulfill my wish." The divine bird said tearfully, as if it had been mistreated. Yi Qinghan looked coldly at these two fellows. They seemed to be impatient. He sneered and said faintly, "You want to create the next generation? That's not a problem. But you have to solve my problem first. Otherwise, you can continue to waste time with me." The divine bird was flustered and exasperated. He said casually, "If you don't want to have sex, then take out some of your life essence. Then, take out some of her life essence. Knead them and place them in the divine liquid. Adjust the temperature to a suitable temperature. Then, you can knead them however you want." "All right, don't bother me." Yi Qinghan's sea of consciousness suddenly lit up. This was a good idea. It would be great if he could artificially breed a sorcerer god. Moreover, it would be the strongest one. He could even create his own physical body. Hee, this despicable bird's method is not bad. I can also change the child's intelligence, memory, and physical body. I'll cultivate his sense of right and wrong and self-awareness from a young age. I can't let him become the puppet of the second sorcerer god. Yi Qinghan gritted his teeth and prepared to artificially create a human. However, it was easy to say but difficult to do. After all, the environment in which the fetus lived was extremely harsh. The divine liquid also had to be adjusted to the composition of the amniotic fluid in the woman's stomach. This required careful research. Yi Qinghan asked the little chaos beast to find a few bird eggs and a few pregnant mammals. He used his divine sense to search for the profound meaning within. After a few rounds of research and conjecture, Yi Qinghan began to force out some of his life essence. Then, he asked Wu Qingqing to force out her own life essence as well. He wrapped them in energy and fused them together before placing them into the divine liquid that had been ground. The temperature of the divine liquid was extremely close to the temperature of the bird eggs. The life essence intertwined and grew vigorously. The child that was originally born from the collision of the two people was now being artificially created by Yi Qinghan. The two of them watched as the placenta grew. They kept adjusting the temperature and adding the divine liquid. The placenta grew much faster than in the woman's stomach. Wu Qingqing was stunned and kept scratching her head. No matter how stupid she was, she knew that this child shouldn't be born like this. Yi Qinghan, on the other hand, was extremely excited. This was the first time he had invented this method, and it was unparalleled in the world. His son was also the first to be born using this method. Now that he saw his son appear, he felt an indescribable sense of excitement. This is our child? We don't do that? Wu Qingqing's blushed face was full of questions. She didn't understand how Yi Qinghan thought of using this method to create a human. There's no need. I can use this method to shape my son's body. The energy in your body isn't enough to make him a peak divine son, Yi Qinghan said calmly. Just like that, Yi Qinghan kept adding the divine liquid and changing the temperature to make the divine liquid the most suitable environment for the growth of the fetus. After 3 months, the fetus gradually took human form. Half a year later, it had the appearance of a baby. It clenched its little fists and even the sound of its heartbeat could be heard. Thump, thump, thump. That at this moment, every time the baby's heart beat, Yi Qinghan's heart would beat as well. It was as if the baby in front of him was himself. This was what it meant to be connected by blood. Yi Qinghan lost his dignity at this moment. He kept smiling foolishly as he looked at the baby. In his mind, he was also thinking about how to get the baby out of the second sorcerer god's control. The baby's body was too weak. Yi Qinghan didn't dare to use the power of desolates. He could only silently use his divine power to refine the baby's body bit by bit. He strengthened the 5 elements and even engraved the mysteries of the great Tao in the baby's weak mind. After a long time, it might jump out on its own one day. All of this happened quietly. Wu Qingqing was kept in the dark. Half a year later, Yi Qinghan called the divine bird and the little miser over to help with the prenatal education. With these two nagging, the baby would definitely be a cunning person in the future. The baby had already taken shape. It needed a lot of night. Yi Qinghan used almost all the divine medicine and holy treasures he could. He even used some of the blood ginseng. However, the energy here was too strong. Yi Qinghan didn't dare to be too reckless. He was afraid that he would kill the baby. 10 months later, the baby was fully formed. He could even open his eyes and look at the world. There were even emotions in his eyes. He looked at the divine bird with disdain. When he looked at Yi Qinghan and Wu Qingqing, his eyes were filled with joy. Yi Qinghan laughed excitedly. He didn't carry the baby out of the energy tank. Instead, he continued to let the baby absorb energy. Furthermore, he increased the concentration of the divine liquid. The baby was growing rapidly. I should give him a name. Yi Qinghan muttered to himself. Does anyone want a Kuang Wuzhan male and female lead manga? If anyone wants one, please join the group. Chapter 1067. He is the future sorcerer god. The ancestor told me that the child must have the surname Wu. Wu Qingqing had never been so resolute before, but at this moment, she was resolute. Yi Qinghan smiled faintly. The child now had intelligence and memories, so it didn't matter what he was called. After thinking for a moment, he said to the child, "You are called Sorcerer Emperor to the outside world, but you must remember that your real name is Desolate Lord Yi. I hope that one day, if I die in battle, you will crush the clouds and break open this world, showing the majesty of the great wilderness." The child blinked, not fully understanding Yi Qinghan's words. The second sorcerer god himself didn't know how big of a mistake it was to borrow Yi Qinghan's seed. In this 1 year, Yi Qinghan himself didn't know how much he had taught the child. In addition to the divine bird, only the heavens knew how wicked Desolate Lord Yi would be in the future. Maybe in 100 years, when Desolate Lord Yi grew up, the second sorcerer god would regret borrowing Yi Qinghan's seed. Time passed very quickly in the temporal space, but in the outside world, it was still night. On this night, thousands of experts were gathered on the training ground. Some were watching the show, some were participating in the battle. As time passed, more and more people were involved in the battle. The crazy sect was weak and didn't have enough foundation, but because of Qin Wenyan, Emoli was involved. Zixin was very angry. Seeing that Zixing didn't help her and wanted to take her away, the light in her eyes changed color. Her familial love was also slowly diminishing. Zixing frowned and clenched his fists. He took a deep breath and didn't act aggressively. Also, when he fought with Jiang Jingtian, he didn't use his full strength. Right now, he was thinking about what to do. Dao Tianxiangfei took the sky-splitting divine bow and didn't force him. Maybe he didn't want to fight with Emoli for the time being. After a few simple words, he took Dao Tianxiangfei away. The atmosphere was still tense, but the experts of the sorcerer race still didn't appear. It was as if they were waiting for the situation to continue. Ji Tian's demon spirit was also involved. However, she didn't choose to help Jiang Jingtian. Instead, she chose to stand against Jiang Jingtian. She glared at Jiang Jingtian and snorted, "Cousin, aren't you damaging the family's unity by doing this?" Everyone knew that Martial King Ji Tian's goal was to stop Jiang Jingtian and Ji Tian from joining hands. Ji Tian wasn't an idiot, he naturally understood that. Now that he had scolded Martial King Ji Tian, he couldn't back down. "Little sister Yao Ling, big brother is doing this for your sake." Martial King Ji Tianshan paused for a moment before explaining. "I really should thank you. However, we are both divine sons and divine daughters. You forcefully interfered with my matters and slandered the pure friendship between me and this fellow Taoist. Don't you think you've disappointed me too much?" Ji Tian sneered. "Not just anyone can become the follower of our Ji Tian clan's goddess. There's nothing wrong with me trying to probe." The Ji Tian divine martial king argued, unwilling to admit his purpose. "What a joke. I only want to be friends with him. How can I be his follower? Lying in front of everyone, do you think I'm an idiot? Or do you think all the heroes in the world are idiots?" Ji Tian's demon spirit was unforgiving and wanted to defeat Martial King Ji Tian. The battle between divine sons and divine daughters was extremely cruel, especially in the later stages. Once the battle reached its climax, the battle between divine sons would be even crueler than their enemies. They would even fight for the opponent's inheritance and fuse the supreme origin into one, to become the strongest supreme divine son. Until now, the strongest son of God had yet to appear. Whether it was Emoli, Dao Tianxiongfei, or Ji Tianshan Wu King, they all had brothers and sisters. They had obtained most of the supreme origin, but not all of it. Even if they were to lack a trace of it, they would not be considered the strongest son of God. Even if they were to become supreme gods one day, they would not be able to compete with the previous generation's supreme gods. In the early stages of the family, the divine sons would still help each other. However, in the later stages, there would only be fighting and killing. Everyone knew about the battle between Ji Tian and Martial King Ji Tian. However, they had brought it forward and brought it out in public, which damaged the sacred ground's prestige. Ji Tian Ling Kong, on the other hand, was happy to sit on the mountain and watch the tigers fight. Jiang Jingtian frowned and said coldly, "Don't drag me into your battle, and don't drag Kuang Zong into it. If you really want to fight, I won't show any weakness in a bet. Let's go. There's no need to tangle with them. We can't kill them." Gu Qingyu was domineering. He looked at Martial King Ji Tian and the others coldly and left first. Swish. Kuang Zong and the other three retreated with Wu Jiang. Qin Wenyan had Emoli by her side. In addition to her own strength, no one could touch her. She didn't need their protection at all. After Kuang Zong retreated, everyone felt bored. If they continued to fight, it would become a battle between the sacred grounds. Thus, they all dispersed. Seeing Zixin leave, Zixing sighed and could only leave silently. Just as everyone retreated, Wu Yi, who was hiding in a different space, put down his divine bow. Originally, the bow had been locked onto Wu Jiang, but he had missed several opportunities. In the end, he couldn't seize the opportunity to kill her in one shot. Wu Yi looked at the backs of Wu Jiang and the others as they left. His eyes flashed with coldness, and his killing intent grew stronger. Jiang Jingtian sensed the killing intent on the way back. He suddenly turned around and looked at Wu Yi, but Wu Yi turned and left. Back in the courtyard, the 5 of them sat in the pavilion in the courtyard. The night wind blew gently, and their hair fluttered. At this moment, their hearts were especially heavy. In terms of foundation, they couldn't compete with the divine sons and goddesses, including Li Chunfeng. Once the other party used his foundation and took out the chaos giant divine weapon, the gap between them would be revealed. That Wu Yi wants to kill Wu Jiang. His attitude is already very clear. Brother Yi was called away by the second sorcerer god. Brother Yi also left a message. If he doesn't appear the day after tomorrow, we have to choose a sacred ground to submit to. Otherwise, we can't leave the ancestral land of the sorcerer race. This shows that the sorcerer race's attitude towards us is also very clear, Jiang Jingtian said in a low voice. The second sorcerer god probably wants to use Qinghan. He probably won't kill him. Besides, Qinghan isn't weak. The second sorcerer god is dying and has lost the source of the supreme sorcerer god. Even if he wants to kill him, he might not have the chance. Gu Qingyu believed in Yi Qinghan's strength and believed that he would come back. Wu Jiang was silent for a long time inside. He didn't expect Wu Yi to be unwilling to let him stay. Now that he had implicated the Kuang sect, he couldn't bear it. Don't worry. I know Yi Qinghan. This person is full of evil ideas. How can he be killed by others? Besides, the second sorcerer god isn't stupid. He just abolished Wu Jiang and wants to eliminate the Kuang sect. I'm afraid he can't handle it, Li Feng said indifferently. Sigh, I'm most worried about my brother's attitude. He represents the Zi family. Zixin wasn't worried about Yi Qinghan. He was worried about Zixing's attitude. He didn't want the Kuang sect to have another big enemy. There's no hurry now. We'll wait for Brother Yi to come back and make plans. 3 days later, the 6th sorcerer god will be reconferred. The second sorcerer god will naturally release him. Li Feng stood up and said to everyone, "Don't go out tomorrow if you have nothing to do. This group of people is looking for trouble and wants to fight. There's no need to have a conflict with them at this time. Let's cultivate first." Chapter 1068. Time flashed by. Gu Qingyu and the others stayed in the courtyard, bitterly cultivating their secret arts and divine abilities. They no longer went out. There were as many experts as there were clouds in the ancestral land, and all of them had their eyes on this courtyard. Zixing went to find Zixin alone, hoping to bring her back to the Z clan, but she refused. Zixing looked at Zixin, who had grown up, and felt guilty. A girl going out alone at such a young age, he felt ashamed. "Sister, if you come back with me, no one will touch you." Zixing didn't give up and tried to persuade her again. "Brother, don't try to persuade me. I've decided to stay in the insane sect. I also want to become a supreme god, but don't worry, I won't fight for your supreme source, and I won't make things difficult for the Z clan. I hope you can help me." Zixin was still determined. The battle between the Holy Lands is very dangerous. When the time comes, you'll be in great danger. Can the insane sect survive the first round? Zixing asked in a deep voice. "Whether they can or not, that's our problem. If I leave, the insane sect will have a harder time winning." Zixin said calmly. "But you put yourself in danger. If I don't bring you back, how can I explain it to father and mother?" Zixing asked. "Will father and mother care? You just can't explain it to yourself. But you don't have to blame yourself. I'm confident that the insane sect will be able to establish itself in the primal chaos plane. As long as you don't become enemies with us, that's my only request." Zixin raised her head and looked at Zixing with determination. Zixing's breath stagnated and anger surged in his heart. "Become enemies with you? We're a family. The fight for resources this time will have a qualitative change in the Holy Lands. Even if you don't think for your family, you have to think for the Z clan's inheritance." Zixing said angrily. "It doesn't matter whether the Z family has me or not. I know the power of the Z family, and you know it better than I do," Zixin said in a deep voice. Zixing snorted and said in a hoarse voice, "Since you know, you should persuade the Kuang sect to join our Z family. Yi Qinghan has been crippled. Once he falls, the rootless Kuang sect will collapse. The seemingly powerful Kuang sect is actually vulnerable. If you really like the Kuang sect and your friends there, I will help you. You can persuade them to surrender and I will definitely treat them well. Zixin looked up at Purple Saint with his eyes wide open, as if he had just heard the funniest joke. He asked with dissatisfaction, "What are you thinking? I'm their friend. Don't expect me to do such a thing. You can go back." After that, Zixin turned around and left, unwilling to say another word. The Violet Sage smiled bitterly and shook his head. Looking at the stubborn Zixin, there was nothing he could do. At this time, the second sorcerer god met with Xiong Shenjiao alone. The two of them were old acquaintances and knew each other well. They sat casually in the sorcerer god palace. Both of them were peerless existences. Even though the second sorcerer god had been buried for so many years and his power had been greatly reduced, he was still far more powerful than the chaotic giant god. "Brother Mang, let's work together again and help the sixth sorcerer god return to his peak. What do you think?" The second sorcerer god asked directly. "Not interested." Xiong Shenjiao sat below and ate the meat without even looking up. The second sorcerer god frowned. In terms of individual combat power, he should be on par with Xiong Shenjiao. He really did not want to have a conflict with him. Yu and Guangwu were brothers in the past. His body is now nowhere to be found. The battlefield back then disappeared into thin air. Are you not interested at all? His inheritor is now in the ancestral land. Do you really not want to train him anymore? The second sorcerer god said helplessly. Not interested. Guangwu is Guangwu, and his inheritor is his inheritor. He has nothing to do with me. As for where Guangwu's body and the battlefield back then went, I will find them myself. I don't need your help, Xiong Shenjiao said calmly. Without the supreme gods, we will not be able to find out the truth. There are so many supreme gods and chaotic giant gods in the huge battlefield. Even if they died in battle, they would still exist in the world. However, they suddenly disappeared. With our strength, even if we can find some clues, we will not be able to change the outcome. Now, we can only rely on the sorcerer god to give birth to the strongest sorcerer god. Only then will we be able to break through all the restrictions. The second sorcerer god reminded, "Brother, it's your business to nurture the sorcerer god. I can't help you much. Besides, I don't have any relationship with the sorcerer tribe. We're just doing our own thing. In terms of battle power, you might not be able to defeat me even if you and the top experts of the Demon God Mountain work together. The only reason I'm sitting here talking to you is because I owe you a favor in the past. Don't push your luck and make me submit to the sorcerer tribe." The second sorcerer god was speechless for a long time. He knew the Xiong Shenjiao would not be able to use him. The atmosphere in the sorcerer god temple was very heavy. There were only the two of them. Otherwise, the others would have been shocked to death by their aura. The second sorcerer god's old face was expressionless. He held the jade cup in his iron hand. The jade melted and turned into nothingness. After a long time, he sighed sadly. He did not know what to do. Many things are out of control now. I cannot control the situation alone. I really need your help. You are the only one who can help me now. The second sorcerer god slowed down and lowered his stance. It was considered a request. The Xiong Shenjiao looked at the old second sorcerer god and sighed softly. He thought back to the days when the second sorcerer god was all-powerful. He was known as the god of war in the chaotic era. Now, he was a hero past his prime. He was weak and pitiful. How do you want me to help you? The Xiong Shenjiao frowned and asked. I want a top-grade life elixir. Only such a life elixir can restore my life force. Right now, my combat power is not even 1% of what it used to be. It is impossible for me to obtain such a life elixir. Such life elixirs can only be found in the Eternal Cloud Sky Great World or the Abyss World. I want you to go with me to obtain two. We can each take one. It will be beneficial for both of us. The second sorcerer god stared at the serpent god, his eyes filled with desire. That is not a problem. Is there anything else? The Xiong Shenjiao asked straightforwardly. During the battle, I hope that we can work together. The Holy Land now does not want to be below others. The sorcerer tribe and the demon god mountain cannot hold up the banner alone. The road ahead will be even harder. We can only reach the peak if we work together, the second sorcerer god said in a low voice. The Xiong Shenjiao nodded. He knew that the second sorcerer god was telling the truth. He did not reject him. However, he had his own thoughts. He looked up at the second sorcerer god and said calmly, I want to know your deployment and who the sixth sorcerer god is. I don't want to know nothing about you when we work together. Chapter 1069. The serpent stared at the second sorcerer god, wanting to test him. The second sorcerer god pondered for a moment and decided to reveal everything. He waved his hand and closed the door of the sorcerer god's shrine. He then said in a low voice, the sixth sorcerer god is the son of Yi Qinghan and my direct descendant, the goddess. I placed them both in the temporal space. Now that Yi Qinghan has the bloodline of the sorcerer tribe, his talent is top-notch and his wisdom is outstanding. His descendant's talent is definitely extraordinary. Coupled with the blessing of my descendant, the sixth sorcerer god will not disappoint me. The most important thing is that Yi Qinghan is now crippled. He will definitely do his best to nurture the child. When the time comes, the power of the crazy sect will slowly integrate with the sorcerer tribe. As long as you give him enough resources and a giant divine weapon, he'll definitely have a bunch of divine sons and divine daughters. By then, the power of the sorcerer race will increase tremendously. As long as you're willing to train him, he'll definitely become the overlord of the Chaos Verse. The second Lord of Sorcerer's idea was good, but whether the crazy sect would be used by the sorcerer tribe or the sorcerer tribe would be used by the crazy sect was still up for debate. The serpent stared straight at the sorcerer god. He licked his lips with the tip of his red tongue and sneered. The second generation is indeed the second generation. He swallows people without spitting out their bones. The powerful insane sect was swallowed up so quietly. I'm afraid they won't even be able to react in the end. That's secondary. You should understand that this child has gathered the sorcerer god's supreme source, the sorcerer tribe's strongest bloodline, and Yi Qinghan's bloodline. He has the potential to become an overlord, or even surpass an overlord and become an immortal existence. I promise that as long as you are willing to assist him, you will definitely be one of the 21 supreme gods in the future, the second sorcerer god said proudly. Can I trust your promise? The serpent asked calmly. I am willing to swear on the glory and dignity of the Father God that if I violate this oath, the witch tribe will fall into hell forever, and the glory of the witch tribe will cease to exist. The second generation witch god immediately stood up and pounded his chest as he swore. An illusory oath was not worthy of trust, but the second god of sorcerer dared to swear on the Father God and the inheritance and glory of the sorcerer tribe. No one doubted it. The serpent god grinned and nodded. Deal. The two supreme masters had reached an agreement, but no one knew about it, including the clan elder of the sorcerer tribe and the powerful clan elder. Most importantly, the second generation did not trust the sorcerer tribe at all. He only trusted himself. After the serpent god retreated, the sorcerer god stayed in the sorcerer god temple for an entire day. No one knew what he was doing. He only left the sorcerer god temple at night and headed towards the realm of time. Within the temporal realm, a 1-year-old child was flying through the air. He was cultivating the great desolate imprisoning heavenly finger and all sorts of great Tao laws. He was extremely intelligent, and with Yi Qinghan's insights, he improved by leaps and bounds. Swish, swish, whoosh whoosh whooshed, the long sword was wielded by the little guy with a childish voice. It was quite imposing. However, Yi Qinghan was not satisfied. This sword art was taught by Wu Qingqing and it lacked aggressiveness and sharpness. It would damage the prestige of the future sorcerer god. However, Wu Qingqing felt good about herself and insisted on teaching him her best sword art. Daddy, I don't like swords. Desolate Lord Ye's childish voice dragged his sword as he ran towards the two. The young desolate Lord Yi was like a miniature version of Yi Qinghan. He was half a meter tall and had a heroic and domineering aura between his brows. However, he still had a childish air and looked extremely cute. Perhaps it was because of Yi Qinghan's aggressive genes, but desolate Lord Yi really did not like swords. However, he was forced by Wu Qingqing to learn. He had no choice but to grit his teeth and cultivate. See, he was not willing to do so after just an hour. If you don't like it, then don't cultivate it. Wait until we leave the temporal realm. I will teach you blade art and pass on the essence of sword art. Yi Qinghan said indifferently. Wu Qingqing was unhappy. She knew that Yi Qinghan disliked her sword art, but she had no way to refute him. With Yi Qinghan's status and his past glory, even Wu Yan had to call him senior. She did not dare to disobey him, even if Yi Qinghan did not have any divine power. Okay, I will go find the divine bird to play. Desolate Lord Yi threw his sword to the side and his figure flashed with extreme speed. It was the windmark secret technique. He had already cultivated it to the small success stage. Not long later, the divine bird's flustered and exasperated cries came from the forest. You little bastard! You spoiled this divine bird's mood. You actually peeped on the process of creating the divine bird. Little rascal, you're still looking. The little moneygrubber also cried out helplessly. It was not the first time that desolate Lord Yi had peeped on them. Every time, the two little fellows would return disappointed. Kikik, this time the divine bird is below and the little moneygrubber is above. Desolate Lord Yi laughed and ran toward Yi Qinghan. The divine bird directly rushed out of the forest and chased after desolate Lord Yi until he was in front of Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan rolled his eyes. This child could not be left to the divine bird and the little moneygrubber. He was purely a pervert and a hoodlum now. Desolate Lord Yi ran behind Wu Qingqing and continuously made funny faces, angering the divine bird. However, Wu Qingqing was extremely protective and did not allow the divine bird to teach him a lesson. Yi Qinghan shook his head and let them do as they pleased. The child was almost 2 years old and already had his own will and memories. It was impossible for the second-generation sorcerer to change him. At this time, the temporal space's entrance opened. A divine light flashed and the second-generation sorcerer god appeared in the space. He looked at desolate Lord Yi and could not help but smile from ear to ear as if he was several years younger. His eyes were filled with satisfaction. This is the 6th-generation sorcerer god. This is the sorcerer god I imagined. The second-generation sorcerer god laughed loudly. Desolate Lord Yi turned to look at the old sorcerer god and stuck out his tongue. He grinned and said, "Greetings, old ancestor, I am called Sorcerer Emperor." The second generation laughed even louder and was so happy that he could not close his mouth. Yi Qinghan did not know how many times he had taught desolate Lord Yi to respect the second-generation sorcerer god on the surface, but in the depths of his heart, he had to listen to the second-generation sorcerer god and not listen to himself or his father. In short, there was a saying, see a person, see a person, see a ghost, speak a ghost. Not a single word could be trusted. Good. Child, quickly come over and let old ancestor hug you. The second-generation sorcerer god reached out to hug desolate Lord Yi. Desolate Lord Yi was not afraid of strangers at all. Perhaps it was because Yi Qinghan had mentioned the second-generation sorcerer god too many times in front of him. At this moment, he took the initiative to pounce over. The second-generation sorcerer god hugged desolate Lord Yi and covered him with his divine power. He discovered that desolate Lord Yi had actually directly inherited Yi Qinghan's 5 elements Dao body and giant dragon bloodline. His physical body was strong and comparable to some master gods. Even if it was not as strong as the giant primal chaos god, there was not much difference. His physical body could be said to be perfect and impeccable. There was no need to mention his talent. This is the sorcerer god in my heart. The second-generation sorcerer god said firmly. Yi Qinghan smiled and did not say anything. He sat and watched as the second-generation sorcerer god helped him train his son. I want to make some cartoons of Yi Qinghan, Emperor Yi, and other series. The cost of customizing them is too high. I want to gather everyone's strength. Those with money can support. Welcome to the group number 46353167. Chapter 1070. On the morning of the 3rd day, the heavy drums of the shaman tribe and the memorial tablet of the shaman ancestor were brought out. the solemn and stirring sound of the drums soared into the sky. The muscles of more than 10 burly men exploded as they continuously beat the heavy drums. Dong dong dong. The sound of the drum reverberated in the sorcerer ancestral land. The second sorcerer god carried desolate Lord Yi and stepped onto the training field. The tables and chairs on the martial arts practice field were arranged neatly, enough to seat 10,000 people. The 12 clan elders of the sorcerer tribe came out one after another. The elite divine sons and divine daughters also jumped out, looking down at everyone as if they were all waiting for the position of sorcerer god to fall on their heads. Other than Yi Qinghan, the serpent god, and Wu Qingqing, no one knew that the sixth witch god had already been decided. Many people thought that the second witch god was testing them. The young elites of the sorcerer tribe looked disdainfully at the masses and emitted a powerful aura. Their fighting spirit soared into the sky, and no one wanted to be outdone. It was only at this moment that the Holy Lands, the powerful forces, and the family clans were able to see the power of the sorcerer tribe. The two camps from back then were only the tip of the iceberg: 12 divine sons and 12 divine daughters. This was the foundation of the sorcerer tribe. Every inheritance had a divine son and a divine daughter. Their cultivation was similar to Wu Zhang's, but they lacked the supreme origin. Once the origin was added to their bodies, their cultivation would advance by leaps and bounds. The 24 powerful warriors each led a group of inheritances as they looked at the statue of the sorcerer god outside of the sorcerer god palace. They were extremely respectful and nervous. Their fingers trembled slightly as they waited for the sixth sorcerer god ceremony to officially begin. The second sorcerer lord had yet to appear, and the cultivators from the Holy Lands had all taken their seats. There were 20 Holy Lands, 20 camps, plus the serpent and the sorcerer tribe from the crazy clan and the divine demon territory. There were a total of 23 regions. The 4 from Guangzhou and Wujiang sat alone in a corner, not wanting to attract attention. Yi Qinghan quietly appeared on the training field. He arrived beside the 5 people and sat down with a smile on his face. "Are you all right?" Jiang Jingtian looked at Yi Qinghan and found that he wasn't missing anything or injured. He couldn't help but feel relieved. Yi Qinghan smiled. "It's fine. Just wait for the show to start. This is just the prelude." Everything was under control. Seeing Yi Qinghan's calm and collected appearance, they were relieved. Wu that the bugle horn sounded, as if a war was coming, causing everyone to tense up in an instant. The drumbeats were still ringing. The bugle horn for the attack made people's blood boil. Many of the weaker elites couldn't help but feel their hearts beat along with the drumbeats. Their blood flowed along with the sound of the bugle horn. The serpent's expression turned solemn at this moment, as if it had returned to the chaotic era. It clenched its fists tightly, and that sense of pride was engraved in its bones and would not fade away with the passage of time. Yushin took a deep breath. He was just a child on the battlefield all those years ago, but the sound of the horns and drums left a deep impression on him. Every time the horns sounded, the war drums would soar into the sky. Corpses would pile up and rivers of blood would flow. It was a hellish scene, but it was also the most exciting sound. Amidst the sound of horns and drums, the second witch god stepped out of the witch god temple. Wu Qingqing carried desolate Lord Yi and followed closely behind. They kowtowed 9 times in front of the witch god's statue before stepping into the martial arts arena. Desolate Lord Ye's pair of shifty eyes kept moving around as he stared at the crowd. His eyes seemed to be able to speak, attracting everyone's attention. Everyone was shocked. Why did the witch god bring a girl and a child here? No one would have thought that desolate Lord Yi was the only candidate for the 6th witch god. The 12 godsons and goddess of the witch race obviously didn't believe that desolate Lord Yi was the 6th witch god. At this moment, they didn't have any emotions, only more nervous and expectant. Thank you gods for descending to witness the birth of the 6th witch god. I express my gratitude on behalf of the witch race. The second witch god wore a chaotic robe, looking majestic and imposing. Congratulations, senior. I also congratulate the witch race on the birth of the 6th witch god. I, Zixing, sincerely hope that the 6th witch god can lead the witch race to the peak and bring peace to the world. Zisheng stood up gracefully, looking dignified. His deep and powerful voice was mighty and mighty in the martial arts arena. Ah, thank you, little friend Zisheng. Please send my regards to the Z clan. I will pay a visit to the Z clan in the future and offer you a toast. The second witch god laughed. Congratulations, senior. The heroes and gods all stood up to express their congratulations. Even more people were staring at the second-generation sorcerer god. They wanted to see what kind of person the sixth-generation sorcerer god was to be able to make the second-generation sorcerer god kill him and destroy Wu Jiang, whom the supreme origin had chosen, in order to choose someone else. The 12 godsons of the witch race raised their heads and emitted powerful auras, hoping that the second witch god would notice them. The clan elders of the witch race's major inheritances were also flushed, hoping that the sixth witch god was a descendant of their bloodline. Wu Yi, on the other hand, was very nervous. He felt that Desolate Lord Ye's appearance was too strange. As the clan leader, he didn't recognize him. Yi Qinghan noticed Wu Jiang's expression. Although it was bitter and sad, the sadness of being abandoned was self-evident, but there was no hatred. Instead, it made people feel that he was a man. Gu Qingyu patted Wu Jiang's shoulder, which was the most wordless consolation. Zixian also patted Wu Jiang's shoulder and smiled, hoping that he would feel more comfortable. Wu Jiang nodded with a bitter smile and said with a hoarse voice, "Thank you, seniors. I'm fine. I'm indeed not suitable to be the sixth witch god. It's best if someone can replace me." Second generation senior, may I know who the new sixth generation sorcerer is? Why don't you call him out and let everyone know? Yushin said calmly. That's right. We also want to see which genius of the witch race can replace Wu Jiang. Everyone agreed. The second witch god turned and looked at Wu Qingqing, indicating for her to carry Desolate Lord Yi out. Wu Qingqing was so excited that her face was flushed. She carried the little guy out, but the crowd mistakenly thought that the second witch god had chosen Wu Qingqing to be the sixth witch god. Suddenly, there was a lot of discussion in the martial arts arena. The 12 godsons of the witch race were suddenly angry. Even the clan elder and Wu Ye's faces turned ugly. They were dissatisfied with the second witch god's choice and wanted to object. I object. At this moment, the fire-type godson of the witch race stepped forward and knelt on one knee. He looked at the second witch god with cupped fists and said in a deep voice, "Ancestor, Wu Qingqing's cultivation and talent are not enough to be the sixth witch god. I don't understand why you made this choice. Please enlighten me." The 12 godsons and goddesses stepped forward and knelt on one knee in unison, as if they were fighting for a glimmer of hope for themselves. With the godsons stepping forward, Wu Yi and the 12 clan elders stepped forward to force the second witch god to change his decision. The second witch god looked at everyone coldly and said with a hoarse voice, "When did I say that Wu Qingqing is the sixth witch god? The real sixth witch god is the child in her arms, the witch emperor. Who else objects? What? A 2-year-old child to be the sixth witch god?" At this moment, Wu Yi could no longer sit still. The 12 clan elders' faces were also ugly. This decision was better to let Wu Qingqing be the sixth witch god. The position of the witch god was so important. How could it be taken so lightly? This child's background was unknown. Who would agree? Chapter 1071. The martial arts practice field was so quiet that even a pin drop could be heard. The drums quieted down and the horns stopped blowing. Everyone looked at each other and felt that the second sorcerer god had become muddle-headed and was taking the fate of the sorcerer tribe as a joke. Yushin and Mo Li both felt that this decision was ridiculous. Wasn't letting a 2-year-old child become the sixth sorcerer god pushing the sorcerer tribe to a dead end? I object. Wu Yi raised his voice and questioned angrily, "Ancestor, I have never doubted any of your decisions and carried them out without hesitation. But today, I have to question and object. This child is of unknown origin and we don't even know who he is. He's so young, how can he be the sixth sorcerer god? Isn't it child's play to confer the title in front of everyone? Ancestor, please reconsider." The 12 clan elders and the divine sons and divine daughters all knelt down and strongly objected. Desolate Lord Yi blinked and wanted to speak, but Wu Qingqing covered his mouth. His big eyes were bright and attracted the love of many people, but the sorcerer tribe hated him. He's Wu Qingqing's son. As for whether he's qualified or not, it's up to me. The second sorcerer god said coldly. I support the sorcerer emperor to be the sixth sorcerer god and promise to assist him to become the real sixth sorcerer god. Xiong Shenjiao said in a deep voice. His voice was like thunder and exploded above the martial arts practice field, shocking the sorcerer tribe. The thousands of elite kings were also shocked. They didn't expect the Xiong Shenjiao to assist this child. The guardians of the various holy lands trembled and appeared from the alternate space. They looked at the Xiong Shenjiao in shock. Many people might not know what the Xiong Shenjiao meant, but the guardians were old monsters who had lived for many years and had terrifying cultivation. They knew how terrifying the Xiong Shenjiao was. If he assisted the sorcerer god, the sorcerer tribe's power would increase greatly. Even Demon God Mountain would be inferior. Yi Qinghan was also stunned. He had considered everything except the Xiong Shenjiao. He couldn't help but admire the second sorcerer god for being able to persuade him. Who is this child? Where did he come from? Zixin looked at Yi Qinghan in surprise. He felt that the appearance of the Witch Emperor was too sudden and timely. He was afraid that it had something to do with Yi Qinghan. Wu Yan was also stunned. He never thought that the second-generation old ancestor would cripple him just to let a 2-year-old child inherit his position. Moreover, it was a child who had never been born. It was simply the biggest joke in the world. Yi Qinghan smiled and did not say anything. He quietly waited for the sorcerer god's arrangement. With the serpent divine dragon's support, the 12 divine sons and goddesses of the sorcerer tribe, as well as the clan elder and clan leader, had no right to object. When did Wu Qingqing have a child? Why didn't this old man know about it? Who is the father of this child? Wu Yi suppressed his anger and asked in a low voice. Wu Yi, are you thinking in the wrong direction? No matter who the child's father is, as long as the Witch Emperor has the bloodline of the sorcerer tribe, has great talent, and is qualified to lead the sorcerer tribe to glory, he can become the 6th-generation sorcerer god. As the clan leader, you don't even have this bit of wisdom. I now suspect that you don't have the ability to control the sorcerer tribe. The 2nd-generation sorcerer god exuded a powerful aura and suppressed Wu Yi. The coldness in his eyes grew colder. Ancestor, as the clan leader, not only do I have to consider the child's talent and bloodline, but I also care about the dignity of the sorcerer tribe's descendants. Wu Qingqing has a child before marriage and we don't even know who the child's father is. She should be banished from the sorcerer tribe and not allowed to enter the ancestral hall after her death. If you think that I have handled this matter wrongly, you can punish me. Let's see what the child of the sorcerer tribe will become after 100 years. Wu Yi stood up forcefully and said coldly. The 2nd-generation sorcerer god's aura stagnated. He wanted to hide that the child's father was Yi Qinghan and did not want others to know that the crazy sect and the sorcerer tribe had formed an alliance. However, he did not expect that the sorcerer tribe had its own rules and he could not change them at will. Otherwise, if the family rules were not established, the sorcerer tribe would be in chaos in the future. The 2nd-generation sorcerer god looked at Wu Yi coldly and was a little angry. If he had not ignored the glory of the sorcerer tribe and questioned the child's origin, who would be able to resist the rise of the sorcerer tribe? Now that he had exposed his background, the other holy lands would definitely join forces to suppress him. The Witch Emperor's father is Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan has the bloodline of the sorcerer tribe and the 5 elements Taoist body. He is the person foretold by the Father God. I have arranged their marriage. Do you have any objections? Or are you satisfied now? If you have any questions, I will answer all of them to you, the clan leader of the sorcerer tribe. The 2nd-generation sorcerer god's aura was cold and he was extremely angry. He clenched his old bony fists. If it were not for the righteousness of the sorcerer tribe, he would have killed him today. What? The child is Yi Qinghan's? What is going on? Everyone was shocked, including Purple Saint and the other ultimate divine princes. Li Feng and the others spat out a mouthful of tea. It was impossible for Yi Qinghan to have such a big child. Moreover, the child was his and Wu Qingqing's child. Really? Gu Qingyu asked in surprise. Jiang Jingtian, Li Feng, and Zixin looked at Yi Qinghan with their eyes wide open, hoping to get an answer. Yi Qinghan felt uncomfortable under everyone's stares. He could only smile bitterly and nod. He really did not want to expose this matter. How did you make this little thing? 2 days. Jiang Jingtian asked in shock. In the temporal space. The order of time there was changed and accelerated hundreds of times. Yi Qinghan replied faintly. Bang. Zixin kicked Yi Qinghan's leg from under the table. Yi Qinghan grimaced in pain. He hugged his leg with both hands, grimaced, and glared at Zixin fiercely. Ha! You're in trouble. Zixin sneered. Yi Qinghan's expression changed slightly. Looking at everyone's expressions, he thought about his 2 beautiful wives, Medusa and Zixin and Dongqin, who were always there to watch a show. He guessed that he would not be able to bear the consequences. It's not what you think. Wu Qingqing and I are innocent. I didn't even touch her. I swear. Yi Qinghan immediately lowered his voice and twisted his voice to explain. At this moment, Li Feng, Jiang Jingtian, and Gu Qingyu were looking at Yi Qinghan with disdain. The child was out, and he said he was innocent. Was this a joke? Or did he take them for fools? If you don't believe me, you can ask the divine bird. The divine bird can testify for me. Yi Qinghan hurriedly pulled the divine bird out of his bloodline. The divine bird looked at everyone's eyes, then looked at Yi Qinghan's anxious expression. It suddenly smiled and said, "Aren't you afraid that I'll tell the truth?" Everyone looked enlightened. It seemed that the divine bird could not stand it anymore. If it reminded them that the truth was Yi Qinghan was lying. Damn it. I'm afraid that you won't tell the truth. Yi Qinghan was flustered and exasperated. He waved his hand and was about to hit the divine bird. The divine bird trembled and quickly jumped onto Zixin's shoulder. It cried, "Don't be angry. I'll help you explain. But they won't believe me." With the divine bird's antics, Yi Qinghan would not be able to clear his name even if he jumped into the Yellow River. Zixin and the others' expressions were already exposed. The truth was right in front of them. There was no need to explain. Chapter 1072. Yi Qinghan was infuriated by the divine bird's despicable look. He couldn't help but snort coldly and ignore it. While they were arguing, the second sorcerer god and Wu Yi were at each other's throats. They were both fighting for the position of the sorcerer god. Wu Yi had his own decision and his own candidate. Naturally, he wasn't willing to give the position to desolate Master Yi. Wu Zulong was a direct descendant of the sorcerer tribe and a direct descendant of Wu Yi. His cultivation wasn't inferior to Wu Ye's. If not for the supreme origin choosing Wu Yi, the position of the sorcerer god wouldn't have been his. Wu Zulong stood behind Wu Yi with 11 deities and goddesses behind him. He was on par with the second sorcerer god. The entire sorcerer tribe only had respect for the second sorcerer god. There wasn't much familial affection left. It had been too long. Wu Yi led the sorcerer tribe into a group. The second sorcerer god was furious and his aura was getting colder. He didn't expect Wu Yi to go against him at this time. He didn't even care about the sorcerer tribe's reputation. The various holy lands watched the sorcerer tribe's internal strife without saying a word. They just watched quietly, hoping that both sides would suffer. Boom! Xiong Shenjiao smashed the table in front of him and strode forward. His face was full of whiskers, but it was obvious that he was furious. Who do you think you are? Do you really think you're the clan leader and have forgotten your ancestors? Xiong Shenjiao rebuked Wu Yi with a murderous look in his eyes. I respect and revere our ancestors, but the prerequisite is that the sorcerer tribe is glorious. If he messes around and hands the future of the sorcerer tribe to a 2-year-old child, I won't agree on behalf of the sorcerer tribe. Wu Ye's aura burst forth and revealed his true combat strength. He was on par with Xiong Shenjiao. 2 beams of divine light turned into a waterfall and rushed into the 9 heavens. They rose and fell, suppressing each other. Although Wu Yi was slightly weaker, with his sorcerer tribe's secret technique and the sorcerer tribe's ancestral artifact and supreme divine power, Xiong Shenjiao might not win. Boom! The 12 clan elders released their powerful auras and together with the deities and goddesses, they forced Xiong Shenjiao to retreat. How dare you! A bunch of unfilial children. Are you all trying to kill your ancestors? The second-generation sorcerer god roared. Wu Yi stared at the second sorcerer god with a firm will. He glanced at desolate Lord Yi, a 2-year-old child. Yet, at this moment he was not alarmed. Instead, he was rather excited. Wu Yi could not help but feel that this child was a bit of an idiot. Ancestor, I beg you to rescind the decision to make the Witch Emperor the 6th Witch God. This unfilial descendant will never use force. Wu Yi said firmly. Which of the 12 divine sons and divine daughters behind me isn't more qualified than a 2-year-old child to be the sorcerer deity? That's right. Yi Qinghan has never been on good terms with the shamans. How can his son be the 6th shaman god? Aren't you handing over the inheritance of the witch tribe to someone else? Wu Zulong said forcefully. Patriarch, please reconsider. There is no one in the shaman tribe to assist him. No matter how talented he is, what can he do? You can ask the elites of the affiliated forces of the sorcerer tribe which god's son they are willing to assist to become the 6th sorcerer god. A white-haired clan elder of the sorcerer tribe said in a deep voice. There were tens of thousands of affiliated forces of the sorcerer tribe, and there were tens of thousands of elites. They had a certain right to speak. Now, with so many experts present, although they were all silent, deep in their hearts, they had their own choices. However, this group of elites had their own leader, and that was the inheritor of the Guangwu battle body. A battle body was a battle body after all. In the past, his battle strength might not be much, but in the future he would definitely surpass the majority of people. Other than the supreme gods, who could compete with him? The Guangwu battle body had his own vision. Whoever he wanted to protect, it almost decided the attitude of all the experts of the other tribes. However, the inheritor of the Guangwu battle body had been in seclusion for a long time. Ever since the establishment of the firmament and the return of the great Tao, he had disappeared. At this moment, no one stood out to lead. The second sorcerer god looked coldly at the people of the other tribes and said in a deep voice, Back then, your ancestors supported Father God. In order to survive, they followed me to conquer thousands of miles and killed countless enemies. Now it's your turn. Will you fight with me for the glory of the sorcerer tribe, or will you stand against me? All the forces of the other tribes lowered their heads. The Guangwu battle body did not make a statement, and no one wanted to. At the table where Yi Qinghan was sitting, Li Feng looked curiously at Yi Qinghan and said softly through telepathy, Since he is your son, why don't you make a statement? The second sorcerer god wants to use the child to destroy the Kuang sect, but I want to use the child to destroy the sorcerer tribe. I'm not in a hurry to show my strength now. When he can't take it anymore or needs my help, he will naturally speak up, Yi Qinghan replied with an evil smile. Li Feng moved his fingertips. Looking at Yi Qinghan's evil smile, he could not help but feel disgusted. This guy's heart was too big. The sorcerer tribe had been passed down for so long, and he wanted to destroy it just by relying on a child. This could only be described as vicious. Pervert, Li Feng said with a muffled groan. The other Holy Lands did not make a statement. They were all watching the show, hoping that this matter would completely divide the sorcerer tribe. Mo Li laughed, and there was a smile in his eyes. Seeing the sorcerer tribe being so noisy, even if they had taken a step back today, the sorcerer tribe would not be able to return to the past. Just as everyone was silent, a figure flashed across the sorcerer tribe's holy lands and rushed to the training field. He stepped in front of the second sorcerer god, carrying the chaotic giant divine weapon and the light martial divine spear. His strong body exuded a strong fighting spirit. The light martial battle body, Ling Xiaoyu, peered. Although he was an inheritor, he already had the prestige of the light martial battle body. The other tribes all looked up, waiting for him to make a statement. The inheritor of the light martial battle body, Ling Xiaoyu, greets the ancestor. The inheritor of the light martial battle body bowed and said. The second sorcerer god looked at him coldly and asked in a hoarse voice, I have conferred the sorcerer emperor as the 6th sorcerer god. As the inheritor of the light martial battle body, will you assist him? The inheritor of the light martial battle body, Ling Xiaoyu, looked at desolate Lord Ye's bright eyes and knew that he was the son of Yi Qinghan and Wu Qingqing. He then looked at Yi Qinghan's calm expression and knew that the position of the sixth sorcerer god had been decided. There was no need to fight for it anymore. He said firmly, "I am willing to assist the sixth sorcerer god in his growth. I would rather die than regret." What? Wu Yi and the other powerful clan elders were in an uproar. The other tribes were also very surprised. They did not expect the inheritor of the light martial battle body to choose to assist a 2-year-old child and not the powerful god's son. Good. The second sorcerer god nodded seriously. With the battle body making a statement, the other tribe's attitude was almost set. Strike your heavy drum and awaken the fate gene of the other tribes. Today I will clean up the family. The second sorcerer god was furious. He waved his hand and gestured for Wu Qingqing to take the child away. Wu Yi and the others were shocked. Looking at the second sorcerer god's angry expression, they knew that things were not good. They took the initiative to compromise and said, "Ancestor, please reconsider. We are thinking for the tribe and not for our own selfish interests. The sorcerer emperor is so young and is really not suitable to be the sixth sorcerer god. Furthermore, no one knows his talents and abilities. If you force your will on us and it is a wrong decision, won't the sorcerer race be destroyed? For the sake of the sorcerer race, please calm down." Many clan elders, god's sons and goddesses all knelt on one knee and respectfully pleaded. Chapter 1073. For the sake of the sorcerer race, please calm down. The sorcerer race knelt down, no longer daring to go against the second sorcerer god. "Ancestor, please calm down. The appearance of this child is too sudden, and it is normal for the race to find it hard to accept. Whether or not he is qualified for the position of sorcerer god remains to be seen. I believe that the clan elder and the other clan elders have no ill intentions and are not purposely going against you." Ling Xiaoyu also knelt down and respectfully advised. "All right, today I will let you see whether or not he can get the approval of Father God," the second sorcerer god said in a low voice. The second sorcerer god grabbed Desolate Lord Yi from Wu Qingqing's hand and pulled him into his bosom. He directly inserted the supreme source into Desolate Lord Ye's sea of consciousness and then formed a seal with his palms. The sorcerer god's power was vast and mighty, helping Desolate Lord Yi to absorb the supreme source, allowing the two to merge into one. Fighting for the supreme source meant certain death. This was the curse of the paramount god, and no one could escape from it. However, as the son of the sorcerer god, the second sorcerer god understood this curse too well. He could completely dissolve the ruthless curse of the supreme source. The golden supreme source did not devour Desolate Lord Yi. Instead, it took the initiative to wrap around his soul and merge into one. At this moment, Desolate Lord Ye's body was emitting golden light in all directions, and his supreme aura pervaded the air. It was denser than any other divine son's supreme aura. Wu Yen was ashamed of his inferiority, and Mo Li was also shocked. Coiling Tiger, Ji Tianshin, Martial King Wu Wang, Sky Overlord, and the others' expressions greatly changed at the same time. They could only see Desolate Lord Ye's body flying into the air and leaving the second sorcerer god's embrace. Bush, bush, bush. His small body emitted rays of light, and his divine robe fluttered in the wind. His big round eyes looked disdainfully at everyone, as if the paramount god had personally descended to look down on his subjects. A tyrannical aura enveloped the ancestral land for 1,000 miles. Bush. Desolate Lord Ye's body suddenly shifted to the side and rushed towards the huge statue outside of the sorcerer god's palace. It was involuntary and uncontrollable, as if the statue was erupting with divine power to forcibly take him away. "Father, save me!" Desolate Lord Yi shouted, directly destroying his supreme aura. After all, a child was still a child. Yi Qinghan squinted his eyes and stared at the statue but did not make a move. This statue had gathered the faith power of the sorcerer god for countless years, and already had its own. It was all ready to fight. To fight! Whoosh! A beam of divine light shot into the sky like an upside-down waterfall, shattering the clouds. Boom! The sorcerer god's statue seemed to have come alive. It even gave people the illusion that its arm was moving and its palm was sucking in the young Desolate Lord Yi. The power of faith roared out from the palm of the sculpture. Waves of faith surged out and wantonly rushed out, wrapping desolate Lord Yi tightly. Inside, desolate Lord Yi fainted. The power of faith converged into a river, rushing into his sea of consciousness. After converging into his sea of consciousness, the primal chaos energy between heaven and earth suddenly went out of control, converging into 12 long dragons, all rushing into his body. Hiss! The ancestor god has appeared. Heavens, the ancestral god statue is actually alive. The sorcerer tribesmen were terrified. They all knelt on the ground, not even daring to raise their heads. The serpent was stupefied. This was the aura of the sorcerer god from all those years ago. He couldn't help but fall to his knees. In the face of a paramount god, even the most powerful giant god was nothing more than an ant. A single thought from the sorcerer god could cripple the most powerful giant god. Boom! On the martial arts field, the people from the other holy lands also knelt, including Yushin and Emoli. This supreme aura was too strong, as if a real paramount god had appeared. The second sorcerer god didn't expect desolate Lord Yi to cause such a huge reaction from the sculpture. He was both surprised and happy, not knowing what to do for a moment. This was the sorcerer god's godly spirit, formed from the power of faith. It wasn't a real paramount god. The second sorcerer god was the clearest. At this moment he knew that the ancestor god was changing desolate Lord Ye's soul and sea of consciousness, as well as creating the paramount godhead. Yi Qinghan was also stunned. This child's talent was obviously heaven-defying, but now it was beyond his imagination. Desolate Lord Yi had clearly obtained the recognition of the sorcerer race's ancestor god. This was something that no one had been able to do until now. Not even the ancestor god after the third generation of the sorcerer race, including Wu Jiang. The eyes of the 12 divine sons and divine daughters of the sorcerer race, as well as the clan elders of the various major inheritances, were filled with fear. Their reverence for the sorcerer god was deeply rooted. No one dared to go against the will of the sorcerer god, let alone the ancestor god. At this moment, desolate Lord Ye's sea of consciousness was filled with the power of faith. It was inexhaustible, constantly condensing, refining, and combining with the divine power. It formed a huge golden godhead. The godhead was wrapped in the supreme origin, and it was even purer than Emperor Ye's paramount godhead. The veins on it were perfect to the extreme. This was the sorcerer god's paramount godhead, surrounded by the 5 elements godheads, as if they were protectors protecting the paramount godhead. The 5 elements godheads, in addition to the giant dragon godhead, were formed at almost the same time. Each of the godheads was of the highest grade, similar to the godhead in Yi Qinghan's body that had been refined for 10,000 years. Especially the paramount godhead, it had surpassed all other godheads, and was even more perfect than the sorcerer god's paramount godhead. Subsequently, a huge amount of primal chaos and power of faith began to form the 5 elements Tao body, absorbing all the 5 elements and 10,000 laws in the world. The 9 revolutions chaos Tao body was slowly condensing. This was the real sorcerer god. A paramount god like the ancestor god. Yi Qinghan had wasted 10,000 years of bitter cultivation, but it was not as good as desolate Lord Ye's opportunity. If there were no accidents, desolate Lord Yi would form the real 9 revolutions chaos Tao body. Wu Zhang's eyes almost popped out. He had never seen such a scene before. Even the 6th sorcerer god was unable to communicate with the sculpture. However, the treatment that desolate Lord Yi was receiving now was not something he could compare to. At this moment, the sorcerer race's 300 great divine arts and 3,600 lesser divine arts continuously appeared in desolate Lord Ye's sea of consciousness. The 10,000 laws profundities were revealed in time and space, difficult to understand. Even a monster like Yi Qinghan would not be able to understand it in a short period of time. Furthermore, if one stared at it for a long time, their eyes would hurt, and their souls would be exhausted. Their eyes would involuntarily close, and they would fall asleep. Yi Qinghan stared at desolate Lord Yi, wanting to see the process of the 9 revolutions chaos Tao body's formation clearly. However, the The sorcerer god's spirit understood the 10,000 laws of the world and could absorb the spirituality of all things. There was no need for a great Tao boundary stone to successfully form the 9 revolutions chaos Tao body. This was something that Yi Qinghan could not do. Time passed bit by bit, and the martial arts stage shone brightly. 12 origin dragons extended for 1,000 miles, covering the entire ancestral land. The second sorcerer god was so excited that his entire body was trembling. It was as if he could see the sorcerer race's imminent glory. At this moment, Emoli was no longer smiling. He felt a terrifying pressure that almost crushed the demonic god's body. This kind of monster seemed to have surpassed everyone. Even Yi Qinghan could not reach this step. However, his son had inherited the origin bloodline of the sorcerer race's goddess, creating a terrifying genius. Damn, this monster is a bit abnormal. The divine bird cried out in shock. I think so too. The child of an abnormal person will definitely be even more abnormal. The little miser echoed. Chapter 1074. Desolate Lord Yi was held in the palm of the sorcerer god statue. The Tenjiang-tall statue seemed to have come to life, its divine robes fluttering in the wind, affecting everyone's soul. The second sorcerer god waved his hand, and all the heavy drums in the arena were struck. The Guangwu battle physique had personally activated the heavy drums that awakened the fate gene. The horn of the sorcerer god's attack was actually a dragon horn. Would that the solemn and majestic sound of the horn reverberated, stimulating the ancient bloodline in everyone's body. The sorcerer's blood boiled, and thousands of beasts roared. Roared the heroes and deities stomped on the mountains and rivers, their fists pounding on their chests as if they were looking back at the heroes of the past. The elite kings were unbridled, their eyes filled with disdain. No matter which camp they belonged to, no one dared to disrespect the first-generation sorcerer ancestor. Experts were experts after all. They could be disrespectful, but they had to be respectful. Mo Li's demon god battle physique was also activated. He raised his head and roared. His muscles tightened, and his aura rushed out, pressuring the experts in all directions to retreat. Even Yoshin's eyes were filled with respect. At this moment, Qin Wentian's gaze changed. It was no longer as indifferent as before. Now, it was filled with reverence and even a hint of submission. Yi Qinghan frowned. Seeing the change in Qin Wentian's attitude, he felt uneasy. Out of all the chess pieces in his hands, only she was not stable enough. If something happened to Qin Wentian, it would be hard to tell who would win in the future. Boom boom boom. Boom boom boom. Yi Qinghan's bloodline began to burn, and his dragon scales almost burst out. Shocked, he quickly suppressed it, not letting the divine power roar out. At this moment, the true elites all revealed their true strength. The gods' sons and daughters of the various holy lands all had terrifying cultivation bases. Some people who had hidden their strength could not suppress it at all when the sorcerer god's horn sounded. Boom boom boom. Ling Xiaoyu's divine robe was torn apart, revealing his bronze skin. The heavy hammers in his hands continued to hit the heavy drum at a faster and faster speed. Every strike seemed to be hammering on the hearts of everyone present. The weaker ones quickly retreated from the arena, not daring to stay any longer. Boom 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 that there were 13 heavy drums, each of which was 3 feet tall. Each branch of the 12 great inheritances of the sorcerer tribe had one, and each branch had 3 powerhouses with the strongest physical bodies beating the drums. The sound of the drums was endless. This was the true beginning of the supreme sorcerer god's coronation ceremony. It would awaken the bloodline of the sorcerer race, awaken the bloodline of the 10,000 gods, awaken all living beings in the world, awaken the chaos era, and return to the world. The sound of the drums soared into the sky, scattering the clouds for thousands of miles. The sky was blue. Poof! The drummers from the sorcerer tribe were the first to succumb. The heavy drum was a chaos giant divine weapon. Not everyone could support it. Even Ling Xiaoyu found it difficult to bear, let alone the experts from the subsidiary lineages. The drumming lasted for less than 20 breaths before the 3 drummers vomited blood. Their bodies exploded, and they died on the spot. The supreme sorcerer conferring ceremony cannot be interrupted. Otherwise, Even the sixth sorcerer god would be in danger. Everyone's bloodline could be crippled. The second sorcerer god roared. Seeing that many drummers were on the verge of collapsing, he couldn't help but feel anxious. Many of the divine sons had gone crazy. The bloodline and divine power in their bodies were out of control. They couldn't hold on at all, and all of them had entered the state of awakening the chaos bloodline. The supreme sorcerer god's conferring ceremony had begun, and there was no turning back. Bang! Immediately after, another drummer was struck by the heavy drum. His body exploded, and even his soul couldn't escape. Yi Qinghan frowned. It didn't matter to him whether the other's bloodline was crippled or not. However, Li Feng, Gu Qingyu, and Zixin had all entered the state of awakening their bloodline. Moreover, Desolate Lord Yi was still evolving and was compatible with the Supreme Sorcerer imprint. Nothing could happen to him. Jiang Jingtian's bloodline was already the Chaos bloodline. He came from the Abyss world, and the drumming and bugle horn didn't have much effect on him. Only the two of them could withstand it. Let's work together. You take 6 drums and I'll take 6 drums. Yi Qinghan and Jiang Jingtian looked at each other and said in a deep voice. All right. Jiang Jingtian took the lead. His figure flashed, and he rushed to the drum camp. Swish! Yi Qinghan seized the initiative after making a move. He swept over everyone's heads and snatched 2 drumsticks from the hands of a drummer who was about to fall. Boom! 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 Yi Qinghan's blood energy erupted. He no longer suppressed it, and the veins all over his body bulged. His speed was as fast as lightning, and it was as if he had turned into 6 people. He struck the heavy drums at the same time. The sound of the drums was vast and mighty, and it broke everyone's eardrums. The airwaves spread out for millions of miles, as if they came from the primordial era. Boom! 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 Jiang Jingtian erupted at the same time. He cooperated with Yi Qinghan and blasted the remaining 6 drums at the same time. The surface of the drums shook so much that the space cracked. Chapter 1076. The time and place of the battle were set. The various holy lands dispersed, and the sorcerer tribe regained its peace. However, Yi Qinghan and the others were still in this ancient ancestral land, sitting together with the serpent, waiting for the second sorcerer god to summon them. The serpent kept smiling as he looked at Yi Qinghan. It was hard to tell if he was angry or happy. It made Yi Qinghan feel a little guilty. He pretended not to see it and turned to look at the statue outside the sorcerer goddess's temple. Yi Qinghan, you brat. How dare you not look at me? The python Shenjiao said coldly. Yi Qinghan feigned ignorance and asked in confusion, Senior, what do you mean? Junior wouldn't dare to trick Senior. I really thought that your martial arts origin had been completely shattered and you had become a piece of trash. It seems that you have taken everyone in the world for fools, the serpent said coldly. Yi Qinghan hurriedly explained, Senior, you've misunderstood. I couldn't distinguish between friend and foe this time, so it's normal for me to keep some trump cards. However, I didn't know that you would come, otherwise, I would have informed you in advance. I was going to tell you after everything was over, but I had no choice but to take action in the middle of the sorcerer god ceremony, which exposed my trump cards. I hope Senior won't blame me. The serpent grunted as it looked at the 5 experts sitting behind Yi Qinghan. Wu Jiang was the weakest among them, and with Yi Qinghan's strength, it wouldn't be difficult to kill him. The serpent didn't dare to push him too hard. At this moment, the second sorcerer god came to the sorcerer god temple alone. He did not bring Desolate Lord Yi with him. The 8 of them casually chose their seats. On the surface, they looked very easygoing, but in their hearts, they were all vigilant. After the second sorcerer sat down, he looked at Yi Qinghan for a long time. It seemed that he was quite angry at his teasing. Originally, he wanted to take the opportunity to reorganize the sorcerer tribe and take Wu Ye's position as the chief, but now he had to postpone it. He even had to maintain a good relationship with Wu Yi. You've disrupted all my plans. I didn't expect you to be so wary of this old man. The second sorcerer looked straight at Yi Qinghan and said calmly. There was no emotion on his face, but the disappointment in his heart was very obvious. Yi Qinghan's fingertips twitched, But he did not feel guilty. He calmly replied, "Elder, please allow me to be selfish. I lead the wild sect, countless living beings in the endless galaxies, and many alliances. One wrong step and I will be doomed eternally. I am different from you. I don't have any foundation, and I don't have many supreme divine powers. Therefore, I am wary of everyone. But the sorcerer tribe and the two elders, I treat them as friends and bear no ill will. If you think that I have some martial arts origin that will affect your plan, it can only mean that you don't trust me, and you don't even want me to have divine powers." The second god of sorcerer paused for a moment and was speechless. "I only have one question for you. Are you the Azura King?" The second sorcerer god asked in a deep voice. "No. He's my brother," Yi Qinghan replied firmly. Having the Azura King meant having more foundation. It might be more useful than 1 or 2 drops of supreme divine powers. The Azura King's whereabouts were unknown, and no one was sure that they could kill him. Otherwise, the Azura region would have been razed to the ground. "Then, are you going to assist or use the Sorcerer Emperor?" The second god of sorcerer asked in a hoarse voice. "He is my son. I can't say that I'm using him or assisting him. I will help him grow and become an unparalleled existence," Yi Qinghan replied without hesitation. "Yi Qinghan, I just want to tell you that he is the sorcerer god. You better not have any ideas about him. Otherwise, I will give up everything to destroy you. But if you are willing to help him and develop your wild sect, I will also support you. I hope you will know your place," the second god of sorcerer warned fiercely. Yi Qinghan nodded. It was good to be straightforward. If the second god of sorcerer god knew that his martial arts origin had been restored, he would definitely give up on the idea of annexing the wild sect. "My wild sect does not have much foundation. I hope to cooperate with the sorcerer tribe. If my wild sect explodes, we will not lose to any of the Holy Lands. We are qualified to sit on the same level as the sorcerer tribe. The benefits I want cannot be less than the sorcerer tribe. This time, I must get one of the entrances to the eternal cloud sky great world." Yi Qinghan stared at the second god of sorcerer god and expressed his bottom line. The sorcerer god thought for a long time. There were a total of 16 entrances, and 23 forces were fighting for it. The serpent wanted one, the sorcerer tribe wanted one, the demon god mountain wanted one, and the pan-holy land wanted one. The remaining 12 were not easy to fight for. "I can't give you a definite answer, but I am confident that I can help you get some of the other places," the second god of sorcerer god said. Yi Qinghan looked at the second god of sorcerer god and smiled arrogantly. He said hoarsely, "Senior, it seems that you still look down on my wild sect. If we only have the young elites on the surface, we are not qualified to fight for resources with you. But what if we have the beast-taming lineage? To be honest, I don't only want the entrances to the eternal cloud sky great world. I also want the resources of the abyss world and the Azura hell. If you and the serpent support me, that would be for the best. If you don't support me, I will fight for it with my own fists." Yi Qinghan stood up slowly and said coldly. Hissed at the second god of sorcerer god, and the serpent took a deep breath and stared at Yi Qinghan. They knew that if he dared to say so, he would definitely do so. When it comes to war, the Wild Sect Alliance will not be destroyed by war. The Wild Sect, the Azura Domain, the Wanlaw Domain, and the beast-taming lineage will all fight to the death. The resources I want are not for the Wild Sect alone, but for everyone. This is a true cooperation, Yi Qinghan said calmly. The second god of sorcerer god was shocked by Yi Qinghan's imposing manner. He had never seen Yi Qinghan speak to him in such a domineering manner. The determination in Yi Qinghan's eyes made the second god of sorcerer god feel fear. Especially that peerless face, which was so cold that it was shocking. "Jiang Jingtian is a member of the beast-taming lineage?" the second god of sorcerer god asked with a frown. "That's right. I can represent the beast-tamer lineage. Going against the wild sect is the same as going against the beast-tamer lineage. The beast-tamer lineage will do its best to fight back," Jiang Jingtian said calmly. The serpent dragon and the second sorcerer god were enlightened. No wonder there was someone who could compete with Ji Tianshan Martial King. He was a top-tier elite from the Chaos era. Only then did the two powerhouses put Yi Qinghan and Kuang Zong on equal footing. Otherwise, they would just be taking advantage of him and giving him charity. We can work together and take down 3 entrances. Then, we can split the loot equally, the second sorcerer god said calmly. Yi Qinghan smiled confidently. He knew that the second sorcerer god would compromise. He said calmly, "Senior, could you bestow upon me a few drops of overgod power? Without the supreme divine power, the insane sect will not be able to contend against the sacred lands. 10 drops, but you have to exchange them with resources." The second sorcerer god pondered for a moment and decided to pay a price to satisfy Yi Qinghan's wild appetite. Recommended book, One Hand Covers Immortals. The author's name is Mi Ben Mu Chen. Yi Qinghan said in a deep voice, "I will give Jing Tians to you alone. As for the ownership of the giant soldier gods, I will not interfere. The giant soldier gods of the returning sect are free to deal with it. I will not interfere." The 10,000 arts returning sect had been passed down for a long time. There was only one defective giant soldier god in the sect. It was even treated as the most precious treasure of the sect. If there was no danger of the sect being exterminated, it would not be used. Now that there was a giant soldier god made with the reincarnation divine iron, it would definitely be a top-quality item. The beast-taming lineage had many materials for the chaos-grade sacred treasures. After all, they had been passed down for a long time. Furthermore, they were in the Abyss world. There were many chaos-grade materials there. When the 3 clan elders learned that Jing Tian had given one to them alone, they immediately took out a large amount of divine iron and other rare materials. Yi Qinghan accepted them without hesitation. These materials were extremely difficult to find. If he did not take them this time, he would not be able to find a second one. The 10,000 arts returning sect had also been passed down for a long time. They had collected many iron ores, some of which were at the chaos grade. They could not refine them and could only preserve them. However, they played an important role. Yi Qinghan took all of them away, as well as the divine reincarnation iron. He opened the realm gate and returned to the Azura region alone. Then, he entered the endless star system without stopping. The others went to the Abyss world to continue searching for precious materials. In the wilderness, dead stars floated in the endless space without any signs of life. Yi Qinghan took a deep breath. Looking at the many materials, he recalled the weapons that everyone needed. Jiang Jingtian used a spear, Gu Qingyu and Mo Li used a sword, Wu Yan also used a spear, Zixin used a soft bone whip, and Emperor Yi used a zither. The zither could no longer display even a fraction of Emperor Ye's strength. They needed a giant soldier god-level zither. He himself used the 7-foot berserk zither. In order to hide his identity as the Azura King, he also needed to forge a Azura battle blade. As for Di Longtian, he saved one. The Heavenly Path sword in his hand automatically evolved according to his cultivation. It would not lose to any giant soldier god. After thinking for a long time, the 10 giant soldier gods were easily distributed. There were no extra ones. The others could only use ordinary master god weapons for the time being. After confirming the appearance of the giant soldier god, Yi Qinghan summoned the little golden crow. Now that the little golden crow was nurtured by his bloodline, it had once again broken through to the level of a giant soldier god. It was like a scorching sun in the sky, burning for thousands of miles. Chapter 1078. The flames burned the sky and soared into the clouds. A huge piece of reincarnation divine metal entered the flames, and the mysteries of reincarnation filled the surroundings. Even the master god level divine fire was devoured, and it was unable to harm the metal at all. Yi Qinghan poured out his divine power and enveloped the divine fire, maintaining the divine nature of the divine metal. The mysteries could not be dispersed, and the blazing flames continued to rush into the divine metal. The little golden crow rolled in the flames and spread its wings like the sun. The temperature it emitted was even higher than Yi Qinghan's. This transcendent talent was definitely unique. What the little golden crow spat out fire essence that rushed into the reincarnation divine metal, softening the surface of the divine metal before going deeper. Yi Qinghan poured out his divine power and ignited the flames. No matter how strong the divine metal was, it would be burned red and softened. The reincarnation divine metal turned scarlet, and the space was distorted by the heat. However, the little golden crow was able to stand on it and was not affected at all. Instead, it became even more ferocious. Yi Qinghan pulled out the berserk hammer and stared at the reincarnation divine metal, waiting for it to completely soften before splitting it apart. 2 hours passed, 4 hours passed. The dead star that Yi Qinghan was standing on caved in, and a huge pit appeared. The rocks were burned into magma that continued to churn. After half a day, the reincarnation divine metal had completely softened. Yi Qinghan raised his saber and slashed in the air. In an instant, more than 10 saber lights landed on the divine metal at almost the same time. There was no sound at all. 1 breath later, the reincarnation mysteries suddenly burst out from the inside and rushed into the clouds. The divine metal turned into 20 pieces and fell to the ground. The 7-foot berserk hammer was directly charred by the high temperature of the divine metal and turned into a pile of scrap metal. Only the saber hilt was left in his hand. Yi Qinghan's mouth twitched. He used his divine power to hold the 20 pieces of divine metal and wanted to take away most of them. However, the grade of the interspatial ring was not high enough to take in such a powerful divine metal. Yi Qinghan activated the mark on his forehead and a desolate aura rushed out. The Great Wasteland's monument followed closely behind, emitting a boundless and vast desolate aura that enveloped the godly metal and absorbed it into the Great Wasteland's monument. There really is a built-in space. I can't believe it can absorb such powerful divine metal. What a treasure! Yi Qinghan was delighted. With a thought, the Great Wasteland's steel returned to the depths of the mark. All that was left was a piece of divine metal that was about 3 feet long and 3 feet wide. However, based on its current performance, it could withstand at least 70% of their power. Make one for me too. I want to tear apart a son of God with my bare hands and step on a goddess. The divine bird and the little miser clashed outside of their bodies as they shouted excitedly. Yi Qinghan rolled his eyes, shrugged, and said, "Just help me find the purple gold divine liquid or something that can replace it. The two of you will not waste much reincarnation divine metal." The 2 divine birds were known as the little experts in finding treasures. Although the divine liquid was rare, as long as it existed in the world, how could they not find it? As long as you make me such a golden armor saint robe, I will find you anything you want, the little miser promised solemnly. The little golden crow and the god-slaying eagle also looked at Yi Qinghan enviously, hoping to get the same golden armor saint robe. Its defense was too strong. Wearing such a defensive golden armor saint robe, even lying on the ground and being beaten to death by someone at the same level. As long as there are enough materials, one for each of us, Yi Qinghan said calmly. Screech! The god-slaying eagle and the little golden crow cried out happily, unusually excited. Let's go and find the materials. Within a year, I must make 10 golden armor saint robes and 10 giant divine weapons. Otherwise, we will not qualify to enter the eternal cloud sky great world, which is equivalent to losing a lot of precious resources, Yi Qinghan said firmly. Yi Qinghan did not return to the insane sect. Instead, he returned to the Azura domain. When he arrived at the Azura sect, Yi Qinghan took out the Chaos Star map that he had obtained from the second sorcerer god. This map included most of the chaotic universe. Many large regions only had a name, and the internal regions were not marked in detail. Yi Qinghan looked at the Chaos Star map and found a few dangerous places that were rich in resources. He marked them on the Chaos Star map and prepared to go there alone. At the periphery of the eternal cloud sky, Evil Spirit Mountain was filled with evil aura. Powerful creatures were everywhere. Some creatures never appeared in the world, but they could devour giant divine weapons. The mines and resources there were so rich that even the Holy Lands were envious. However, when the Holy Lands were fighting each other, they were unable to conquer that place. For so many years, the Holy Lands had been cultivating their bodies and minds. They wanted to recover their strength, but they could not fight. So, until now, no one had set foot in those dangerous places. Occasionally, there would be experts who would go there alone, but no one could return alive, including the king gods. In the end, rumors spread, and those places became dangerous places. The more powerful the powerhouse, the more slaves they owned. If Yi Qinghan were here, he would definitely recognize the owner of the Drifting Void stronghold as Ghost Taoist Flowing Void of the Six Gods Dao sect. Back then, his godhead had exploded, and his soul had escaped. By chance, he had seized the body of a severely injured overgod and successfully possessed it. 10 years later, he had recovered his peak strength, and with the help of the spatial shield, he had fled to this place and became the overlord of the stronghold. Perhaps it was the will of the heavens, but Yi Qinghan did not know that Ghost Taoist Flowing Void was still alive. He also did not know that he had spent more than a month in Flowing Cloud stronghold before finally arriving at the South Horizon region. As soon as he arrived, he could feel the chaos in this region. There were wars everywhere. The ground devoured blood and bones. Rivers of blood flowed, and piles of bones piled up. Some people were so thin that they were just skin and bones. Some people went crazy and directly devoured human flesh. These were all beings below emperor level. They could not abstain from food and needed to replenish their vitality. However, without divine crystals, they could not enter the mountain range to hunt. Originally, the Thousand Islands mountain range could be entered and exited freely. However, in the past 100 years, it had become the backyard of the Drifting Void stronghold. It was even more difficult to enter than the forests occupied by other cities. Yi Qinghan frowned. It was a tragedy for cultivators to be able to do this. He could not imagine how this region could be so chaotic. Boom, boom, boom. A large group of beast cavalry held spears and whips as they galloped on the ground. The ground trembled and dust rose. I found a good slave. Give it to the little princess. I'm sure she'll like it. Dozens of beast cavalry sped up and rammed the few skinny cultivators in front of them to death. Then, they surrounded Yi Qinghan. This city was called Nanjiang City. The city lord, Bo Yi, had 30,000 beast cavalry under him. They were practically invincible. He was the overlord of the Nantian region. He had 3 sons, all of whom were half-step lords. The little princess was his only daughter, Bo Feng. She liked men, especially strong and beautiful men. She used yang energy to nourish her yin energy. She had swallowed the essence of countless men and forcefully seized the vitality of others. Her cultivation was even more terrifying than her 3 elder brothers. She had become a lord 3 years ago. However, her combat strength was far from that of a giant god. The whips shattered the void and curled toward Yi Qinghan's neck. The others curled toward his long legs and waist. Yi Qinghan furrowed his brows and let out a muffled groan. His psychic energy split into dozens of portions and rushed into the knowledge seas of the orc riders and the others. The orc riders waved their arms, but before they could exert half of their strength, they lost all their strength and fell to the ground. After their master died, the group of ferocious beasts only cried out in pain and fell to the ground. They had a contract of life and death. If their master died, the ferocious beasts would die. The souls of the beast cavalry were directly destroyed by Yi Qinghan. You have a death wish, Yi Qinghan snorted coldly. His body shook, and the smoke and dust dissipated. His clothes were not stained. The skinny cultivators around him looked at Yi Qinghan in shock. It was as if they had seen a ghost. In their eyes, even the people of the Drifting Void stronghold would not dare to kill so many beast cavalry in Nanjiang City. Moreover, Yi Qinghan had only grunted, and the powerful beast cavalry had all died. Just how terrifying was his ability to do that? Yi Qinghan did not care about these people who were about to starve to death. There were too many of them. If he were to take care of them one by one, even a year would not be enough. If he wanted to save them, it would be faster to kill all the people in charge of this city. If he could control the higher races, these people at the bottom would be able to survive. Swish! Yi Qinghan's divine sense swept past and discovered Nanjiang City. His figure flashed, and he arrived outside the city. He saw that the slaves were chained up with divine iron chains and had huge rocks on their shoulders. They were building huge palaces and fortifications. The supervisors did not treat them as humans. If they were slightly slower, they would whip them. If the supervisors were unhappy, they would be beaten to death. But the sound of a long whip resounded through the void, followed by a miserable scream. A slave was beaten until his skin and flesh were lacerated. He curled up on the ground with a twisted face. Motherfucker, stand up. If you don't complete the mission by tonight, don't even think about getting medicinal pills, let alone food. The supervisor was cold-blooded. He waved his hand and whipped the slave again. The slave had no choice but to stand up and endure the tearing pain. The city wall was so tall that it almost reached the clouds. No one knew what it was built for. Perhaps it was to defend against external enemies, or perhaps it was purely a waste of manpower and resources. Yi Qinghan shuttled through the crowd and was stared at by two supervisors. Stop right there, where did this bastard come from? Show me your identity card. One of the supervisors coldly berated. Yi Qinghan's eyes flashed. Two saber lights shot out and slit the two supervisors' throats. The High God supervisors died on the spot. They did not even have time to scream. Chapter 1081. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation Whoosh. There was an uproar at the construction site. The group of numb slaves looked shocked and retreated one after another. No one dared to approach Yi Qinghan at all. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The overseers drew their swords and surrounded him, but they dared not get too close. Who are you? Don't you know that this is Nanjiang City? A half-step Lord-level overseer looked at Yi Qinghan cautiously. He was certain that this person was definitely not from Nanjiang City and most likely not from the Nantian region. He could not help but berate him angrily. Yi Qinghan did not have time to waste with this group of people. He merely raised his large hand and grabbed a small rock in the air. He split it into hundreds of pieces and flicked them violently. The stones were sharper than god weapons. They pierced through the air and split into hundreds of pieces with their own trajectories. All of them pierced through the bodies of the overseers standing around him. Even their souls did not escape. Boom! Dozens of corpses exploded with a loud bang, dyeing the place red with blood. Ah! The numb slaves finally felt fear. They screamed and retreated, looking at Yi Qinghan in horror. Yi Qinghan clapped his hands as if he had just killed a few animals. He showed no mercy at all. He turned around and walked toward Nanjiang City's city gate. Boom! The guards at the city gate realized how powerful Yi Qinghan was and did not dare resist. They closed the city gate right away and activated the defense formation. They did not even care about the slaves outside. Who are you? Why are you attacking Nanjiang City? The guard commander standing on the city wall was shocked. He hoped to ease Yi Qinghan's hostility. However, Yi Qinghan's goal was only to destroy the powerhouses of the 36 cities and restore order. Therefore, he was not interested in communicating with them. All he did was approach the city gate step by step. The guards on the city wall were shocked. They hurriedly fired piercing arrows for help. The arrows exploded under control. The city governor's residence immediately mobilized thousands of powerful troops to charge toward the city gate. However, Yi Qinghan was slightly faster than them. He clenched his iron fist and twisted his waist. The mountain rocks under his feet turned to dust as he threw a punch. Boom! Yi Qinghan transformed into a streak of flames and smashed his fist into the thick iron gate. The explosive force of his fist was more than 10 million jin, causing the entire gate to shake. Yi Qinghan directly smashed through the 2-meter thick black iron plate. Bang! A huge hole appeared in the black iron gate, and the entire city gate seemed to exist in name only. The energy wave shattered the guards inside, and Yi Qinghan forcefully stepped in. When he saw Ghost Taoist flowing void, he couldn't help but be surprised. He thought to himself, didn't I kill this guy? How is he still alive? Looking at Yi Qinghan's surprised face, Ghost Taoist Flowing Kong laughed evilly and said coldly, Yi Qinghan, you didn't expect me to still be alive, right? Today you are really looking for death. You actually went to the South Horizon region and started a massacre. Let's see what you can do to me without anyone helping you. It had only been 200 years since the battle between the two. Ghost Taoist Flowing Kong naturally didn't believe that Yi Qinghan's strength had surpassed his, and by a lot. Therefore, he didn't put Yi Qinghan in his eyes at all. Indeed, I didn't expect you to still be alive. Yi Qinghan shrugged. He didn't expect to meet an old friend. He smiled indifferently and said, I don't need help this time. If you can escape from my attack, I will let you go. Yi Qinghan, you are getting more and more arrogant. If you can escape today, I will let you kill me. Ghost Taoist Flowing Kong's aura exploded as he laughed wildly. This ignorant brat. Is he ignoring us? The experts of Flowing Kong's stronghold all laughed. Fellow Taoist Flowing Kong, it seems like you have a grudge with this guy. Since you have a grudge, why waste time talking nonsense with him? Let's attack together and kill him. Thundercloud City's city lord Lei Baotian was incomparably irritable. Lightning surrounded him, and the sharp little lightning could actually pierce through the void. At this moment, his aura exploded, and his voice was like thunder exploding in the surroundings. Everyone's eardrums were buzzing. Many people didn't want to stand together with him, which showed that his strength was extraordinary. Ghost Taoist Flowing Kong let out a muffled groan and waved his hand. Tens of thousands of experts swarmed in from all directions, with the weakest being a high deity. The personal guards of the various manor lords had also arrived, sealing off Yi Qinghan's escape route. Don't worry. Today I will play him to death. Ghost Taoist Flowing Kong stepped on the void, and a trace of fluctuation appeared in the space. Following that, a row of stairs appeared outside the city wall. He stepped on it and approached Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan smiled gently, like a young master of an aristocratic family. He didn't have any magic power, and people couldn't even feel any hostility towards him. My plan back then was about to succeed, and it was because you ruined my plan. Today, I will take your bones one by one and use them as firewood. I will chop off your head and use it as a urinal. I will let billions of people humiliate me. Ghost Taoist Flowing Kong's face was ferocious as he roared cruelly. Yi Qinghan sighed and said disdainfully, You were lucky to survive back then. Why did you run out again? And you just had to run into me. Enemies are bound to meet on a narrow road. It seems like I have no choice but to enforce justice on behalf of the heavens and kill you again. However, this time, your luck won't be so good. Ghost Taoist Flowing Kong's sinister eyes shot out a red light, and his resentment soared to the heavens. He no longer bickered with Yi Qinghan. Instead, he waved his hand to signal the various experts and shouted, Fellow Taoists, as long as you help me stop him today after I kill him, I will not take a single one of the 18 cities. They will all be yours. Fellow Taoist Flowing Kong is still the most straightforward. Don't worry, if he can leave the South Horizon region today, the one who will be humiliated will not be you, but the heroes of the entire South Horizon region. Many experts were scattered around, and there were master gods in all directions. No matter which direction Yi Qinghan tried to break out, he would be attacked by the other experts. However, they didn't seem to consider that Yi Qinghan didn't want to break out at all. Instead, he wanted to destroy them. Boom! Yi Qinghan clenched his iron fist, and a golden glove appeared on his fist. It emitted a purple-gold reincarnation light that seemed to fuse with his fist without any negative effects. A reincarnation vortex appeared on the glove, absorbing a large amount of chaotic space energy. Any other spiritual energy that was absorbed into the glove would immediately turn into chaotic energy that could be released at any time. Boom, boom, boom. Yi Qinghan's blood began to boil, and the battle intent in his eyes grew stronger and stronger. Veins popped out all over his body, making him look like an azure dragon. His 7-feet-long body contained a power that could destroy the world. Bush, 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 bush. Yi Qinghan crossed his body, and his divine power gathered in his fist. He stared at Ghost Taoist Flowing Kong and said indifferently, One punch. If you can block this punch, I will spare your life. Ghost Taoist Flowing Kong's eyes turned serious. He waved his hand and summoned a spatial shield to protect his front. It could block 50% of the giant god's attack. Even if the giant god of chaos descended, he was confident that he could survive. Boom, bush, Yi Qinghan stomped on the ground, and with a twist of his waist, the ground split apart. His body turned into a flaming dragon, and his fist collapsed the sky. It landed directly on the spatial shield, and the terrifying power was unstoppable. It directly penetrated the spatial shield and blasted into Ghost Taoist Flowing Kong's body. Boom! Ghost Taoist Flowing Kong's body was like a kite with a broken string, and he spat out blood. His chest was directly penetrated, and his body crashed into the walls of Thundercloud City. The walls collapsed and dust filled the air. Bailey Zhu Xiong was so scared that his face turned pale, and even his breathing stopped. Go and bury him. With this special order, this group of people quieted down. Among them, an especially skinny chief god carried Ghost Taoist Flowing Kong's corpse and rushed to the side of a hill. He dug a hole and buried him. Yi Qinghan looked down at this group of experts. They were all greedy and ruthless, using their strength to bully the weak. There were not many good people. They all deserved to be killed, but he did not do so. It was a waste to kill this group of people like this. He might as well make use of trash. Perhaps they could help him find some resources. Yi Qinghan coldly said, "From now on, open the storehouses and release food. First, help the victims of the disaster. Then, open the entrances to the various mountains and allow the hunters to hunt. If anyone dares to bully the innocent and attack the small tribes with the goal of slaughtering the entire tribe, I will not let them off easily." No one dared to refute. They immediately ordered to carry out Yi Qinghan's orders. Soon, the victims of the disaster received their supplies. The Flowing Kong stronghold was uprooted. Not a single person escaped. The experts either died or surrendered. Not a single one escaped alive. Yi Qinghan used 2 days to reorganize the South Horizon region. This place became the insane sect's third territory. Although this group of people was useless, under his control, no one could think of betraying him. Every chief god-level expert had a restriction placed in their consciousness. If they had the slightest intention of betraying him, their souls would be tortured to death. He controlled the upper echelons. As for the half-step chief god-level and supreme god-level experts, he did not need to care about them anymore. With the help of this group of people, Yi Qinghan's treasure hunting path became much easier. Yi Qinghan was overseeing Thundercloud City, overlooking the various overlords. He knew that he had dealt with the big stick, so it was time to offer some benefits. He said, "I need a large amount of good materials for treasures. Therefore, I need the best hunters to help me find them. Pass down my orders. Whoever finds good materials for refining weapons will be purchased at a high price. I will also give them a large amount of the best and most powerful secret skills, divine abilities, and arcana of laws. I will provide you with the most suitable treasures according to your materials and needs." The eyes of the many chief god-level experts lit up. They looked at Yi Qinghan excitedly. They knew that he was so powerful. Just 1 or 2 powerful divine abilities would be enough for them to cultivate for half their lives. As for you people, your cultivation bases are not bad. I will give you special treatment. However, it depends on whether you have the ability to make me look at you differently, Yi Qinghan continued. Don't worry, my lord. I was born a hunter. I'm definitely first-rate when it comes to hunting and finding treasures.